Time to re-up YouTube. Your boy Young Mustard is back with another episode of the season preview, and as you guys can tell, we are finally at the Minnesota Timberwolves like so many of y'all have been anticipating. Yes, I am going out on a limb, and I am really high on the Timberwolves that I have put them in my top 5. I truly do believe that this team made a huge upgrade by picking up Rudy Gobert this past offseason. Some of you guys may think I have them way too high, but I hope by the end of this video I do a great job at convincing you why you should buy more stock into this team. But before we go any further, make sure you guys drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell for post notifications. Also follow me on social media. My @names are on the screen and the links are in the description box. But without further ado, let's talk about the Timberwolves and why I believe they will be the biggest surprise of the 2022 to 2023 NBA season. When you look at what the Wolves were last year, they showed so much promise on both ends of the court. Players like Jaden McDaniels, Patrick Beverley, and Anthony Edwards were really strong pieces for their defensive efforts, being in the top half of the league, and offensively, the growth from Ant, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell combined, along with some of the other role players around them, was able to uplift them to being one of the best offensive teams in the league. They finished first in points per game and 8th in offensive rating. And with them finally making the postseason for the first time since the departure of Jimmy Butler, it was a huge success and step in the right direction for this organization. And hell, they celebrated a lot after that play-in game, as we all saw. And in the playoffs, they put up a huge fight against the Memphis Grizzlies in one of the more entertaining first round matchups and going down in 6 games. Their downfall simply came down to Karl Anthony Towns not being that aggressive at times. He really struggles in the post. He doesn't have any real strength to back down players. There are times where he was being stopped by Dylan Brooks. That's unacceptable. And on top of that, defensively, he really isn't that good. Combine that with Anthony Edwards shooting erratically in the 4th quarter and D'Angelo Russell just playing straight up bad at times. It was a recipe for a first round exit, and that's exactly what happened. It was clear that offensively they were a great team and they had a lot of promise, but defensively they were flawed, especially on the interior. So they traded for Rudy Gobert, giving up 5 first round picks and 5 players in the process. And I believe Gobert is the answer to their prayers, at least for what they were missing last season and why they went out in the postseason. When you look at what the Timberwolves are right now, it's very obvious they are top heavy. There's only about 6 to 7 guys that I could say are going to get reliable minutes come playoff time. Players like Naz Reid, Bryn Forbes, Austin Rivers, and Taurean Prince, they're gonna have to battle it out to see who's going to get the boatload of minutes coming off the bench, but it's very clear based off of the names that I just said that the Timberwolves bench is going to be a big weakness for them. Now I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue because they can run a lot of lineups where D'Lo is with the bench, Ant is with the bench, Cat is with the bench, Gobert is with the bench, which is a big help for this team. The fact that they have 2 centers that can run with multiple lineups, it gives them a lot of flexibility there. One guy that I do like off the bench, which was a big pickup for them, is Kyle Anderson. Anderson is a great defensive player. He's actually a DPOY caliber player if he's getting full minutes. That's how great I think he can be. And offensively, he's very well disciplined. He knows how to slow down the pace, obviously. High IQ player, can operate in the pick and roll, cut to the basket, just a really solid player on both ends of the court. But now that brings us to the starting lineup of the Timberwolves, and I honestly believe you could argue that they are a top 5 starting lineup in this league. Individually, each player has a flaw that the other one makes up for in a huge way. For starters, let's look at Jaden McDaniels. He is one of the best defenders in the NBA already, and next year I think he's going to take another step towards being potentially in DPOY contention. McDaniels is the modern day wing that everybody wants in this league. He stands at 6'9" with a near 7-foot wingspan. He has the ability to guard multiple positions, obviously due to that size and length. He moves his feet very well on the perimeter. He can block shots. He can also get steals. He's a good help defender. And to get a full grasp on how impactful he was for this Timberwolves defense, let's look at his on-off numbers in the postseason last year. Against the Grizzlies, when Jaden McDaniels was on the court, they had a 107 defensive rating. When he was off the court, it spiked up to a 116.1. McDaniels is going to be one of the best defenders in this league for a very long time, and I believe he is going to be a significant piece points on one of the all-time defenses that I'm predicting the Timberwolves to be this year. On the offensive end, he's actually not that bad. I do think he has his flaws. Obviously, he's not some great shot creator, but based off of what I've seen from him in the past, some of the off-season workouts he's done, and the preseason footage, it's clear he has been working on his handle a little bit, and I hope that it can translate towards this NBA season. Obviously, putting the ball on the floor is not something I expect him to consistently be doing, but if he can attack guys off of mismatch situations, it'll definitely help the offense a great deal. His three-point shooting took somewhat of a dip last season, but he's going to have ample floor spacing on this team, so I don't think it's too much to ask for him to shoot league average or just about near on mostly open attempts from behind the arc. But one guy that I'm expecting an offensive boost on this team from is D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell, I've been critical of him numerous times in the past, as you guys know, but if there is any situation for D'Lo to be successful in, this is the perfect situation. D'Lo has been inconsistent throughout the majority of his career. Not only has he suffered a fair share of injuries, but his play has consistently gone from great to bad to good to mid, all over the place. But this year, I truly do believe if there is any time for him to thrive, it has to be in this situation. Throughout D'Angelo Russell's entire career, he has been most effective in the pick and roll. And now that he has Rudy Gobert, who's one of the best roll men and lob threats in the league, D'Lo should be used the best that he's ever been used in his career, going back to his Brooklyn days. He's very effective at finding the roll man or finding the guys off missed rotations if the defense tries to switch off of it, or hell, he can just pull up from mid-range because he's actually a very effective mid-range shooter when he gets it going. D'Lo is one of the better passers in the league. His IQ in late game situations can definitely be a little bit questionable, but with Rudy Gobert as his roll man, I don't see how D'Lo doesn't have one of the better years of his career. And on the defensive end, despite him struggling for most of his career, I thought he took a lot of strides last season. The only concern I truly have for D'Lo is his consistency and health. Hopefully both of those things are in check next season because the Timberwolves are going to need it. D'Lo is also on a contract year making $31 million. He's obviously not making that kind of money next year unless he just explodes out of nowhere, but knowing a lot of these NBA players, once they see that contract is up, they turn into a whole different beast. Remember Hassan Whiteside? So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out because Rudy Gobert's making 38 mil, Cat's making 33 mil, and Anthony Edwards hasn't even gotten his extension yet. So it's very clear that they are going to be financially tied down to those three guys in the near future, and D'Lo's spot is kind of up in the air. So I would say out of all the guys on this roster, he probably has the most to prove and gain from a successful season. Another guy who has something to prove this year is Karl Anthony Towns. Now when it comes to Cat, I am up and down with this guy. One day I love what he's doing and I'm calling him the best shooting big of all time. Another day I'm angry because this guy can't back down Kyle Anderson in the post in the playoffs. It really is one or the other, and I have to say that when it comes to Cat, you can see the talent in him, but he just doesn't have a lot of the intangibles. As mentioned earlier, the whole reason they went after Rudy Gobert is to fix Karl Anthony Towns' deficiencies. Cat is a great offensive player, don't get me wrong. He's one of the best shooting bigs ever, and you can make an argument that he is. Last year, the man averaged 25, 10, and 4 while shooting 53% from the field, 41% from 3 on nearly 5 attempts a game, 82% at the free throw line, which accumulates to a true shooting percentage of 64%. Along with the numbers, when you look at his skill set, it's truly a thing of beauty. He can put the ball on the floor better than most bigs in this league. He's a very good passer with a high IQ. I love the two-man game that they run with him and D'Lo, sometimes with him and Ant. I would love to see more of that in the offense this year. And when you talk about impact towards the offense, Cat provides so much value towards this Timberwolves roster. Cat creates so much spacing for a guy like D'Angelo Russell to operate in the mid-range freely and Anthony Edwards to consistently attack the rim and apply pressure there. As for when you look at Cat's on-off numbers offensively, it's amazing. When he's on the court, they have a 117.9 offensive rating, and when he's off the court, it drops to a 109.2. Cat truly is the difference of them being a great offense versus being a bad one. I wish he impacted the defensive end just half as much as he impacted the offensive end, but hey, that's what they got his new buddy Rudy Gobert there for. Gobert is one of the best defensive players of this generation. Straight up, I'm not even trying to be funny. I know some people like to make fun of him, but I truly do believe he's one of the most underrated players of all time at this point. People don't understand what defense truly is in the NBA. Sure, you can get dunked on here and there, but look at Giannis. He gets dunked on all the time. But we all know what his true value is to the defensive side of the ball on that Milwaukee Bucks team. But unfortunately, when it comes to Rudy Gobert, we hold him to this amazing standard as if he's supposed to be the greatest defender of all time. And even though he is an all-time defender, to expect him to do things that most players can't do is just insane. This guy in Utah had to cover for players like Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, Bojan Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, and that football player that was masquerading as a basketball player, Royce O'Neal. He did such a great job at doing that in the regular season that it earned him multiple Defensive Player of the Years, but obviously in the playoffs it was just never going to hold up. You could put anybody in that situation. They were doomed to fail. One player cannot fully carry a defense in the regular season and playoffs. It just doesn't work that way. And on the offensive end, the Jazz were not using him properly whatsoever. This is a guy that would average around 15 points a game on around 7 to 8 shots. And sure, a lot of that just comes from lobs and dump offs, but let's be honest here, those are the kind of touches you should be giving him. And when you watch the Utah Jazz, there are so many times where Gobert has a mismatch on him underneath the rim where he just has to turn around and dunk it, or he's wide open for a lob in the dunker spot and they just ignore him to jack up some contested mid-range jumper or a three. Jordan Clarkson and Donovan Mitchell, those are the biggest culprits of that shit on that team. But now in Minnesota, where he has a player like D'Angelo Russell that can find him in those spots consistently because he loves to do that, I think Gobert offensively might even take a jump to around 17 to 18 points per game. And on the glass, Gobert is one of the best rebounders in the NBA. You could argue he is the best. Alongside Karl Anthony Towns in that front court, I believe they are going to dominate the glass, and if you run a small ball lineup to try to take advantage of either of those two, that's the risk you're gonna run. So to all those people saying, man, in the playoffs they're just gonna go small against Gobert and take him off the court, well, yeah, good luck with that. Gobert finally has help on the defensive side of the ball on this team with players like Kyle Anderson, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels. I think with a supporting cast like that, we're finally going to see Gobert's impact on a true defensive unit. I will admit Gobert's contract is pretty nasty, especially considering that they're going to pay Anthony Edwards soon, but if Gobert can just be what he was last year for the Utah Jazz, then I think it's going to be worth it in the long haul. But on the topic of Anthony Edwards, let's talk about Ant-Man, bruh. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Anthony Edwards. This man is literally the next Michael Jordan. Look it up. He can consistently put pressure on the rim and put anybody on a poster. He has a good handle, can beat people off of a first step. He can pull up from three. He can knock down his free throws, and defensively, oh my goodness, talk about the growth. You ever want to see somebody clamp someone up in a one-on-one situation? Just watch Ant on every single night. He truly does have the full package, and one thing about him I admired last season is that he rose and stepped up in the playoffs. Not only did he help save their season in the play-in game against the Clippers that Karl Anthony Towns played like hot dog water, but in the playoffs against the Grizzlies, I believe that was his coming out party towards stardom in this league. He averaged 25 points a game, 4 rebounds and 3 assists, a block and a steal, shooting 45% from the field, 40% from 3, 82% at the free throw line, which accumulates to a true shooting percentage of 60%. Ant is not only the future of the Timberwolves, but I believe he is the future of this league. There's a good chance that one day he's the face of the NBA, straight up. And I think this upcoming year, as you guys saw in my season predictions on Off the Grid, I believe he is going to win the Most Improved Player of the Year. There's a good chance he averages over 25 points per game, or at the bare minimum 25, while playing next to elite defense on this team. And if that happens, not only is he in contention to win the Most Improved Player of the Year, but if the Timberwolves as a whole have the season that I'm expecting them to have, he might even be an MVP conversation. That's how great I think he's going to be this year. You could argue that Karl Anthony Towns is the best player on this team, or hell, if you want to go down the Gobert argument, I'm not going to be mad at you, but there is no debate on who the face of this franchise is going forward. It is Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man. And along with the supporting pieces with players like Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, D'Angelo Russell, I definitely do believe that this roster is built to be a lot better than people are projecting them to be. I see a team that can be elite on both ends of the court, and if they just stay healthy, there's a good chance they're representing the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. But hey, that's just my opinion. I could be way off according to you guys, so let me know down below in the comment section if you disagree. I'm sure a lot of you guys think I'm insane for this take. Let's just hope by the end of the season I'm not regretting regretting making this video. But be sure to like this video and share it. Show everybody and their mamas what I think about Rudy Gobert on this team. This is your boy Young Mustard signing out. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.